a lot of huge crowds, a lot of big atmospheres, but a lot of great moments as well. Susanna, how was your weekend? How did you experience it all?
I was just watching, taking it all in on as many screens as I could find because there was a lot going on. But I was so jealous of you. I was actually just, I also had my Instagram open so I could watch the adventures of David Goss in Charlotte because you were there. First-hand experience of their home opener, a record-setting crowd. It looked like, by all accounts, and I had a feeling that it was going to be like this in Charlotte. I mean, the party started early. People were up for this, and it was just great. It was so cool to see all of the tailgates and all of the jerseys, and just people really invested in this team and so excited for this home opener at Bank of America Stadium. And I was just, I had the most FOMO I've ever had in my life. It also looked like a beautiful day. So it was like you couldn't have just dialed it up better. But what was it like? How was it for you?
It was awesome. I also was worried about that FOMO, hence why I went. And I got there, and you just land in the city. And the first thing I noticed was that everyone owns Charlotte FC stuff.
Love it.
It's not even like, oh, we'll wear a Liverpool jersey or an Arsenal jersey or a USM&T jersey or USWMT jersey. It's like everyone owns Charlotte FC gear. And that was pretty cool, pretty exciting to see. And so everywhere you went all day, you could feel like the moment was coming and it was building up to the game. And we saw a couple of Atlanta United jerseys as well.
I saw Tom Bogert tweet about that, and I was like, ooh, that's controversial.
But there was good debate going back and forth. It felt like everyone knew what was going on, and it wasn't just pure hate and anger, but there was energy there. So it was awesome all day. As you said, it was a beautiful day. It's very much a you can stand outside and do stuff type city, big spaces. We went to a couple breweries, obviously the tailgate as well, and then the march to the match. And, I grew up going to Giant Stadium to watch MLS games, and it was empty. So to go to a game, to go to the upper deck, and you walk out and it's already filled, is like, oh yeah, this is different than what I remember from the past of being in an NFL stadium. And it was awesome. The crowd was there for it. Everyone was super into it. Everyone was really excited. Everyone was positive. You could still feel the supporter section chants. How do other people react? Like that type of stuff still come together. Not perfected yet, which you would never expect. But it was that huge moment that I think they've been building up to and waiting for. And it was definitely worth the trip, I would say. And it was fun.
I'm so glad. There was one thing I wanted to ask you about specifically, because as I was watching this match, it was incredible. So the national anthem starts and there's audio issues, like the microphone of the woman that's supposed to sing the national anthem goes out, and the entire, nearly 75,000 people start singing the national anthem. And so it was obviously not, they didn't foresee technical difficulties there, but it turned into this sort of iconic moment. And I was like, this is the coolest thing. Also, this could be like a thing, like rather than an anthem singer, you just get everybody in that stadium to sing, because it was powerful. And I just want to know what that moment was like. Like, what was it like hearing all those people singing? Because I thought it was one of the coolest things ever.
It was funny because I think the anthem starts and some people sing with an anthem at a sporting event. And you kind of felt like that first moment of some people sang, some people didn't, before the mic went out. Like just when the anthem started, and then you're all like standing there, and then the mic goes out, and it's like everyone at the same exact time was like, I can help. Like, I know what to do. It wasn't like one person started singing or the supporter section did and everyone followed. It kind of was like this, like everyone knows the words in their head, the mic drops, and it was like, I know what to do now. Again, as I'm saying, like everyone was so locked in for the game and the moment and everything that was happening. It was sort of a sign of like, everyone was like phones out, wanting to see what's happening, but like on edge, but like engaged in what was happening. And so that's where you see like the moment the mic goes out, everyone is singing, everyone's involved. It didn't take a beat, it didn't take time, and it was so loud, and it was so cool, and it was I think that was like your chills moment of the night.
Yeah.
And I didn't know when it happened afterwards. It's like kind of just happened. And you don't know what it's going to look like on TV or if people at home will even hear it because they don't even show the anthem all the time. So I didn't know until yesterday that other people were talking about it and it was like a thing other people had experienced. So I'm glad that came off really well.
It was neat. It was really, really very special.
So we're about to get to your first winner, which is Austin FC.
Yes.
You're impressed when teams score 10 goals in 2 games?
I am color me impressed, David. I feel like scoring 10 goals in your first 2 games is a good thing. You know, that's all right. That is also an MLS record, by the way, for a team. And this is an Austin team that struggled to score goals in 2021. I think they had like around 30 or so goals total last year, and they've got 10 in their first 2 games. So offensively, they are
woken up.
They have woken up. They have discovered, I don't know, whatever, the secret sauce. Sebastian Drusi was phenomenal. Had a couple goals in this one. He has been such Josh Wolf kind of talked about the way he has come in and sort of like changed the character of the team and sort of changed the mentality of the team. And you can see that. I mean, the guy was just all over the place. Really, really, like that's when they signed him, like that's what they were hoping for. And I think he's delivering. Now, Austin also have played. I hate this. I hate doing this, but you know, when you
have to do it. You have to do it.
I know, but I think it was Matt Doyle who was like the schedule gods smiled on Austin in 2022 because their first 2 matches were against Cincinnati and Miami, who's we know defensively it's not great.
Now they took advantage, right?
Yes,
those are not.
They did exactly what they should do.
For example, Chicago went to Miami and they couldn't get a goal. They didn't get 3 points.
I know. When I was watching Austin absolutely decimate Miami's backline, I was thinking, how did Chicago not manage to score 1 goal against this team? That was just a thought that I had. I don't want to dwell on it, but whatever. But yeah, to your point, they're doing exactly what they should do against teams that have weaknesses on the backline. And what I think is really important for a team like Austin, who they weren't like awful last year, but it wasn't great. But this is giving the team so much confidence. These 2 performances give the team. They are. I mean, you could see it last. They are vibing like crazy.
The group celebration in the corner.
I know. I was like, this is coordinate. Like, look at them choreograph.
Although as they were building up to it, I thought it was going to be better than it was. I'm not going to lie. They did a lot of like, wait for it, and you're like, oh, this could be good.
I know.
And
I know.
It felt like Alex Ring probably planned it. It was a little.
Listen, I'll give him some credit for it, but you don't do that unless you're feeling yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? And I just think that there's some really good vibes happening on Austin right now. They are playing with a lot of confidence.
Now, we want to mention the New York Red Bulls here because the Red Bulls dominant 4-1 win at Toronto. Lewis Morgan, a first half hat trick. That's their big acquisition. He's wearing the 10. This is what they thought he could do when maybe no one else really saw this exact side of him. They do it without Ashley Fletcher, who they brought in, and they do it on the road against Toronto and on the road against San Jose. Do you believe any differently in what you've seen from the Red Bulls than versus Austin FC?
That's a really, really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about it. I think now that I'm actually like thinking about it, I think I might be more impressed with the Red Bulls. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I
think I might be more impressed with the Red Bulls because of the opponents that they've played, number one. But it was they took Toronto out of that game entirely. Like Toronto couldn't do anything. And I have to give massive credit to Jared Struber, just like, you know, that game plan absolutely worked. Like that their Toronto's midfield couldn't do anything. And I actually expected Toronto to be, I don't know. I think I had a question mark around Toronto. Like, what are they going to be, especially as they wait for Insigne to come this summer? And maybe this is more like a blemish on Toronto, but when I was looking at the sort of preseason predictions, I really like the Red Bulls didn't have enough for me to kind of move the needle, like in terms of because they finished the season so strong last year. But I was like, I don't know if that was, just a team getting hot, but they're kind of proving me wrong. And so I think I'm more surprised by what the Red Bulls have been able to do in a couple weeks. But it was very, I just think that like guys like Frankie Amaya, who have like a huge upside, like we haven't talked about him ever. And he looked fantastic. Obviously Lewis Morgan, but I think they're kind of one of these like, oh man, did I sleep on the Red Bulls? Did I really not give them enough credit at all? And I think I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes, based on what I've seen in 2 weeks.
I think that's a fair response. I'm still holding to see if San Jose and Toronto are maybe a mess. And it's still a test for Red Bulls. They have Minnesota this weekend at home, which I think is a good home opener for them. I agree with you about the way they played against Toronto, but it also sort of does fit into the Red Bulls' hands of like Toronto's disorganized right now. They're halfway between do we press or do we not press? I think you've got two guys at fullback who have never played the position before, and Michael Bradley is like the only D-mid trying to cover all the ground in front. And so I think there's a combination of it was a good matchup for them, and they are playing really well, and they are playing at a really high level. I think you have to be excited to see Lewis Morgan finish those chances because we didn't see him get in those spaces with Inter Miami. So we know he's capable of things like this, but most of what his work was get to the end line, get a cross in, so maybe Higuain or whoever else is playing at center forward can get those chances. This was obviously different, and it feels like Ashley Fletcher is going to play the role Tom Barlow played and probably do it at a higher level. No offense to Tom Barlow. And so it could be even more dangerous in the attack of like Klamala and Morgan sort of sitting underneath a center forward. We haven't even seen Luquinhas yet, who's their designated player. So it is interesting. It can get better for the Red Bull. I think it will get harder as well as they go along. And I think Toronto was probably a good matchup for them because it is a team that opens up the game, leaves space available. And I think it was the first goal. I mean, Frankie Amaya dusting Michael Bradley like it looked like me out there on the field. It was hips, it was movement, and it was quick for Frankie Amaya. And so, there's a lot of question marks about this TFC team, but I think Red Bulls fans should be really excited by what they've seen so far. And as you said, you mentioned Amaya, Omir Fernandez on that. Sean Nealis looks good again, which I think is going to be huge. Wow, I can't even remember the left wing back from the academy who I'm obsessed with. John Tolkien, thank you.
Oh,
took me a second to get there.
How do we forget John Tolkien?
Well, it turns out I can't remember much right now, is what I'm saying.
You're forgiven.
Let's move. So let's move a little bit. We skipped one. So we went to Austin FC. Let's move to your next winner, which was Sunday night. Golazos. You are a fan of Jimmy Chara only scoring really difficult goals.
Like, this is, I mean, what just happened? I couldn't believe my eyes because it was like, we're getting this 2 weeks in a row. Like, what have I done to deserve this? This is glorious. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Chara, there was a whole debate on Twitter about whether or not this was a bicycle kick or not that Jimmy Chara scored.
Do you fall strongly on either side?
Anytime a leg is like going over like your head a little bit, I feel like we can classify that as a bicycle kick because I just think the degree of difficulty cannot be overstated.
So you're giving it out. You're giving it.
Yes.
Putting him on the bike.
100%. I just thought this game was fun. This was like
oh my God.
This was a very exactly what you come to expect from an LAFC Portland matchup. And I loved it. And it was a 1-1 draw, which I thought was like such a fair result too. Like I was just like, I feel great about this game.
So I think there was a moment
except for Carlos Vela getting subbed off. I know.
I think there was. Yeah, and we'll talk about this thing. I think there was a moment before, though, that Chara hit this goal that he was like on the left side of the box and the ball bounced up, and it was like picture to exactly what happened against the Revs. And it was like that moment where I was like, he's going to do it again. And he didn't. And then like 5 minutes later, he does it again. It's awesome. And I think he's been really good over the last year. Like as he's settled in, he fills in for Blanco at times for them. And I didn't think that was something he'd be capable of on this team. And he fits perfectly right because he covers ground defensively. He wants to get out and transition. He wants to open it up. And as you said, it feels like when LAFC plays Portland, it's like LAFC are going in and they're like teasing Portland. They're like, well, look how open we are.
I know.
You can come out and attack anytime you want. We're just waiting for it. And Portland knows they shouldn't. And so they hold. And then the moment it opens, it's boom, 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 boom. Chances both sides. The scary thing for me about LAFC, scary for them, is it doesn't feel like a different team than what Bob Bradley coached. And that might be, hey, they had a bunch of injuries last year and they really are one of the best teams. And so the continuity is good. It also might be they open things up. They get ridiculous. The game, I mean, Portland should have had more opportunity. They should have been ahead by more than one once the game opened up in that second half. And they didn't. And then credit to LAFC, I think, for staying committed and continuing to push to the end. And obviously the red card helps. And there was a lot of second yellow red cards this weekend. The refereeing, and you can probably go watch instant replay, and Weeby and Charlie know more about this than I do, but we know the refs, every year they say these are the things we're focused on, tactical fouls, wasting time, stuff like that. They're giving the second yellows quick, which I like, because otherwise the first yellow becomes toothless, and it's kind of just a performance to show that you did a thing that was bad, but it's not actually going to affect the outcome of the game. And I think there was one in the Philly-Montreal game. There was this one. Miles Robinson got one in the Colorado game as well. And they were all legitimate yellows for both of them. And so I kind of like seeing that, because hopefully now it takes out some of that tactical fouling from the game, let the game open up and stuff like that. On Vela, all we have heard so far is that it was a precautionary move to take him out at halftime. And Cherundolo said, I think it's okay.
I think that doesn't instill me with confidence. Gosh.
I don't even know what any of that means.
I just think that like anytime you get subbed off, that's not good. Like that's
in a game you're losing 1-0. It's not like they were up 3-0.
No, I know. I'm if I was an LAFC supporter right now, I'd be concerned, because it feels like deja vu a little bit.
And we heard last week from Taylor to close out the weekend that he said that he thought the contract extension was close, but it hasn't been signed yet.
No.
His contract's up in June. And so we've never really seen a deal like this. You get into a weird spot where, let's say it's touch and go. He doesn't have a committed contract. If I'm Carlos Vela, am I really going to risk a quad injury where if I'm gone in 2 months, the next team wants to know that I'm healthy for them? Mm-hmm. And if you're LAFC, how do you handle him and talk to him? And I think at times Carlos Vela's gotten a bad rap in his career. I think he is committed to what he's doing. I think he is a high-level professional. The stuff that happened with Mexico is different and unique. And I don't think he's a player who would say, no, I don't feel well when he does. So I don't think that's what it is. But I just think it's worrying for LAFC that you have question marks already in this conversation. What is he? How long is he with the team? What does he look like right now? And then you're just adding to that when it felt like after week one, it was all answers and no questions. Atlanta went to Colorado for this game, and this was a huge moment for Colorado, I think. The bounce back win, they give up the Vela hat trick, obviously the devastating CCL game. And what I said coming out of week one was I was worried by just the body language, the effort, the way they just didn't show up to LA, and it was totally different. Against Atlanta, it was obviously an Atlanta team missing some pieces, but everyone's missing something right now. It was they were tough conditions. It was cold, all that. And I think this was one of the best games I've seen Diego Rubio play in a Colorado Rapids jersey. And it was the service. It was the finishing himself. He was dominant. He was waiting for defenders to come to him and releasing players at the exact moment. The ball over the top for Jonathan Lewis's goal was the pass of the weekend. And you're talking about a number 9 who can hit a ball like that. It's as much as we take away from the lack of goal scoring, their ability, the number 9s, all of them that are on Colorado, to drop in and do other things is why that system does work, because you have those rotations, you have that movement. So you're playing against George Campbell and defensive mid, not exactly the toughest competition, but they were all over the place. And this was, again, like we talked about, Austin, this was a team that I think needed this. And this is, the better starting point to this season for them to say, yeah, we are the team that was the best team in the Western Conference last year, and we haven't taken a step back, and we can continue to play at that level.
Are you at all, I don't want to, it's not concerned, but like, I'm a little bit surprised at the lack of, I don't know, like performance from Joseph Martinez. And I just feel like he's not.
He missed a huge one in this one.
Yeah. And there was I'm, again, it's Monday, people. Forgive me. I saw this on Twitter and it was one of these like second spectrum stats of like, he's basically not getting, his movement into the box is like one of the lowest percentages in the league right now. Mm-hmm. Joseph Martinez. And to me, that's weird and concerning. And is that anything to be concerned about at this point?
I think so.
Or is it just like,
I think it is because in yesterday, I think someone was talking to me about some center forward in MLS. And I was saying, I think they're good. I don't know that they're at the elite level. And in my head, the first thing that comes to mind is Ruiz Diaz. And then for the first time ever, I said peak Joseph. Like, you can't accept right now that he is the same player that won the Golden Boot. And that doesn't mean that he can't be a difference maker. And that doesn't mean that he can't be a factor. That doesn't mean he shouldn't be on the field. But we cannot assume at this point, even though he did score some goals last year, that he will be the player, or he is the player again that he was at his peak. And that has to be worrying. And part of it is the pieces around him aren't there, so he's dropping in and doing a little bit more in the buildup. But the chance he had, it was the final kick of the first half. They're down 1-0 on the road. And I don't remember who it was, but they play the ball directly into his feet on the 6. And it's just a touch and a finish. Mm-hmm. And it's Joseph to a T. He's clean in those moments. He calms himself. He finishes. And he misses the trap on the ball. And it's not something that we've ever seen happen to him. And that moment, if he scores that goal going into halftime, they probably get a draw out of this game, right? Yeah. They kill the momentum for Colorado. They come out, they probably reshift themselves defensively, maybe bring Ozzy in, drop Campbell back, and sort of hold on to that tie. And it was your star that has carried you would carry you here. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see it. So I think it's fair to question it. Okay. But also Thiago Almada's not there yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Arujo's hurt now. Marcelino Moreno doesn't get the start. So there's other things going on there. But amazingly, a positive Rapids conversation turned around into an Atlanta United conversation.
I did it. It was me. That was my fault.
We're just as bad as everyone else. I want to go to my next winner, which is the legend himself, Bruce Arena, breaking the record for all-time regular season wins in MLS history, 241 over the late great Ziggy Schmidt. And the Revs get a 1-0 win at home in this game against FC Dallas to open up their home stretch of this season. I think they clearly had an eye towards CCL in the way they went about this game. But with Bruce Arena, everyone has said everything. There's not that much left to say. The part that I think obviously impresses me and you have to look at is I didn't think he was going to coach again. Yeah. Like he left the Galaxy.
He's 70 years old.
He takes over the U.S. It doesn't go the way it's supposed to go. And he retires. And it felt like that was fine. Totally. He had won the most MLS Cups. He's one of the all-time winningest coaches. He had obviously had the success in 2002 with the World Cup. It was done. And then he comes back, and he comes back into a league that has changed a lot. And this isn't the first time, right? He won with DC. Then he builds the Galaxy at a different time.
Really good point.
And then he comes into a league now where spending is different. Team building is different. Mm-hmm. I mean, he goes out and gets Gustavo Bo, and it's not like when he left, people were pulling in Liga MX starters left and right. So it's a different scouting network. It's a different background. He uses Carlos Gil, who's already there. To his credit, he didn't come in and just trash the whole team and say, there's nothing here I can work with. Let's move on. And a lot of the pieces have been stable pieces for his team. And then he's added to that and he's built to that. And he goes and gets Buxa, which is a style of player that the Galaxy weren't getting. And it has not been that way always in MLS. So it is so impressive what he did. And Susanna, let's go to your last winner, which the Revs are a part of. You were very excited. Week 2, some teams getting their first opportunity at
So
home.
bad. I feel like I just was like, oh, we gotta get all these teams in. So I'm just gonna lump them into one big.
Listen, you just love a crowd.
I do.
You just love fans
I
feeling happy.
I thrive amongst a crowd. Alongside the Revs, Sporting Kansas City, Colorado, and RSL all won their home openers, which you love to see. And it was, SKC, that's a nice little bounce back result for them after not a great week 1. And RSL had a weather crazy. There was some wild weather.
2 hours.
This weekend.
They did a shortened halftime because they were like, well, it's already 11:45 at night. Let's get this thing over with.
Right?
Yeah, it was wild. And Minnesota had that as well. And they did not win in their home opener. They got a 1-1 draw.
Do you know what's funny, though? I want to ask you about this, get your take on this, because I thought this was interesting. Matt Doyle tweeted this out about so Albert Rusnak coming back to RSL. He's obviously now a member of the Seattle Sounders, but RSL had an Albert Rusnak night at Rio Tinto to honor him. And Matt Doyle was kind of like, this is weird because he chose to leave the team. He was there for 5 seasons and he was really good for them, but also had some injury bouts and things like that. So it was, I don't think Matt Doyle was just kind of but then apparently he got booed.
But sometimes booing can be respect. When Mariano Rivera did his last tour,
I'd be like, oh, this is soul destroying. If I got booed, I would just crawl into
I think there's a level of respect because it means that you care enough to boo them and they're good enough to be worthwhile for booing. Yeah. I do think that's weird, but I also am not against acknowledging the business aspect of sports, and not everything has to be a personal offense, and saying you came here, you played really well, you were a huge part of the team in a rocky time, right? It has not been a consistent base for RSL over the last 5 years. He stayed with the club after his first contract. He played every single game last year for them. And then they make the run into the playoffs, and then he finally gets back from COVID and is a part of that. So I don't hate anything there that happened, but I can understand thinking it was a little weird because it is a little weird.
I didn't really think it was weird until Matt Doyle pointed it out, and I was like, oh, maybe it was weird. I just think I'm too easily influenced by Matt Doyle, and that's probably not a good
I don't
thing.
even follow him. Is he on Twitter? I don't follow him on Twitter. Shout out to Matt Doyle, who I think is currently in this. We have to close out on this one, though. We had Andrew Farrell on the second ever show of MLS Today, and I asked him for a non-Revs MLS prediction, something he was watching for, excited about, whatever. And his immediate response was that kid Mamadou Fall at LAFC. He is good. And I got a message from him this morning with the eyes emoji, and it just said Fall. So shout out to Andrew Farrell for 1, being a boss, 2, for coming on the show ever. We always appreciate you. And mainly for being really good at knowing soccer, because he's really good at soccer and he watches it and he knows what's going on.